Iowa's most famous murder spree. I'm Jason Horton.
I'm Rebecca Lieb.
And this is Ghost Town.
So, growing up in the Midwest, I felt like I knew a lot about true crime. I loved it. I lived it. I breathed it. But there are still some things.
Well, I hope you didn't really live it.
No, I didn't live it. I lived it in the sense that I experientially, it was a part of my life, but not experientially. Like, no one was murdered in my family.
Right.
Like, I didn't kill anybody. But I just always had, I remember,
I
don't know, I turned it off. Anyway, sorry, we're very popular.
Yeah.
We can't be bothered. But I remember like going on a family vacation and reading Helter Skelter, my parents and my brothers.
Sounds like fun.
I know it was for me. My parents and my brothers went to the pool of this hotel, and I stayed in the hotel room and read Helter Skelter.
Oh, you're one of those?
Yeah, I know. And when you read it, you want to get to the point where you get to the pictures. Like, I wouldn't let myself see the pictures in the middle of the book, the gory pictures, until I earned it. I got there. So that's my experience of this. So when I heard about the Villisca Axe Murder house, I was like, this little nugget. I'm going to devour this little nugget
Probably
now.
big for the people involved,
Yeah.
but a little nugget
for me.
For you.
For me in the landscape of true crime and murders.
So we're going to take it to Iowa.
We're going to take it to Iowa. Have you ever heard that?
Take it to...
You never... Someone's always like, take it to Iowa.
Yeah.
We
know where you know where I want to take it to?
Where?
Our friends, the podcast Teen Creeps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If you grew up reading paperbacks with campy neon cover art and titles like Nightmare Hall or Fear Street, The Prom Queen, or The Last Vampire, Creatures of Forever, well, we've got the podcast for you. And if you didn't, we're still going to tell you about this podcast, which is okay because you don't need to read any books to enjoy it.
Which is the best part, actually. If I don't have to read any books, wonderful. Teen Creeps is hosted by grown-up comedians Kelly Nugent and Lindsay Kaitai. Love them. Both great.
Great.
Dive headfirst into the best and worst of young adult pulp fiction of the 80s and 90s. We're talking R.L. Stine, Christopher Pike, Caroline Cooney, Babysitter's Club, Sweet Valley High, and the list goes on and on.
It's like a book club that doubles as a sleepover and triples as a podcast, tackling questions everyone's thinking about, but no one's saying, like, what should I do if my high school boyfriend is an ancient ghost? And how can I avoid getting murdered at my own prom?
You won't want to miss Kelly and Lindsay dramatic reenactments from their book of the week, and they share their own awkward high school memories, which they gladly dig up and parade around for everyone to hear.
Yeah, I mean... God, I would share a horrible high school zombie memory, but they were, again, mostly Charles Manson related.
I was extremely popular. Everything I did was cool, and I never had a negative moment, so...
That's right.
Can't relate.
I love Christopher Pike, though. They have amazing guests on from the podcast universe to talk about the young adult pulp fiction that has them obsessed. Guests like Ira Madison III, Mary Holland, Nick Weiger, Alice Waterland, and Betsy Sodero.
Have some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Very, very funny people. So we still doing listen to this ad. Get creepy today and subscribe to Teen Creeps on the Forever Dog Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. New episodes every Wednesday.
Just like us.
I was going to say just like Ghost Town, but I guess just like us is good. Speaking of us, just want to get this out of the way, this business out of the way, and then we won't bring it up again.
Let's get the biz out.
Our Patreon, 2 bonus episodes a month. Because if you're like, I've listened to all the Ghost Towns, is there any more? We have, if you are our patron on our Patreon for the $2 a month, you get all the back catalog. It'll make it very easy. I think there's a button you can press. It's one of the tags is called bonus episodes, and it'll bring you to all those bonus episodes. And if you ever wanted to like advertise very inexpensively on a podcast, our $25
you
section,
don't know our reach.
Yeah, it's... Listen, let me tell you something. As a marketing and Jewish person, as Jewish people, as Jewish folks, it is well worth it.
I would love to get sponsored by something very Jewish.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, we'll work on it.
Anything in Hollywood.
Then.
Anything in Los Angeles.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything in New York or Los Angeles. So you can go to... patreon.com/ghosttownpod, and it helps out. It's going to be things that when we want to travel or we need a little bit of equipment, submitting to festivals. So you're really, you're getting bonus episodes, but you're helping us move this thing forward.
Yeah. You want more information? You have a qualm about us not getting in as much as we can, we also have that qualm.
Yeah.
Let's work together to solve it.
And you can message us on Instagram at Ghost Town Pod.
Yeah,
that's it.
Please do.
So you want to go back to Iowa?
Let's go back to Iowa.
Do you know, let me
for
tell you a
second.
little fun fact. I don't
would
know
love
if it's
it.
fun. Do you know what else is creepy and scary from Iowa?
Some ex of yours, a family member?
Maybe both. The band Slipknot. Gotcha.
Wow. That went in a way that I am delighted by.
A buddy of mine, Tony from Black Box Films, he made a movie on the Villisca Axe Murders. I remember because I worked with him on
Really?
a lot of YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
And one of his series on Verizon's Go 90 that is now defunct.
Okay.
So I know he made a movie on that. So that's how I first got familiar with it. But I'm not as well versed with the info that that you're going to lay on us.
Yeah. And I also want to lay out a disclaimer. I have not slept much in the past week.
You don't look it. You look very, very refreshed. You know, she brought out
lying.
snacks. If you want to know,
Shit.
she's like, hey, do you want anything to eat? There's Oreo Thins, Chips Ahoy, Chex Mix, and what is that? Pirate's Booty.
Yeah.
Aged
I
white
got all the
cheddar.
hits. I love Chex Mix.
And then you asked me, is this low carb? It is only carb.
I know.
I'm doing keto right now.
I've been living off of Mucinex and hot coffee.
Yeah. Are you just chopping up and snorting it at this point?
Yeah,
or?
pretty much. It's like, actually just, I put it in water and I dissolve it and then I like mainline it through my veins.
It's a speedball.
Into straight to my heart, you know?
So,
I've been working on this show that I've mentioned before on the podcast. And we're shooting this week and next week.
Maybe you might, maybe I don't know, you might see some familiar faces in there.
Yeah.
You don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Jason might have a cameo.
I might show up on
Jason
Nat
and
Geo.
some other celebrities.
Yep, some big time. I'm probably at the same level as a celebrity, right?
Yeah. Do you guys like celebrities aside from Jason?
Yeah, well,
This might appeal to you.
Yeah, so you might see me on some Nat Geo.
Exactly.
Or just on the
or December
floor.
1st.
Yeah. When is it?
December 1st.
December 1st, Nat Geo Brain Games.
Yeah,
Free
that's
plug.
right.
They have the money. They have the money to pay us, but you know what? We just gave it to them for free because we're, I don't know what.
Exactly.
We're drones,
they have
I guess.
so much money. But they also like to keep me up they like to call me in at 6 a.m. and keep me till midnight. But that's production. Such is the nature of it. But if I seem a little bit more out of it than usual, which is hard to believe.
I actually think you're a little more focused than when you're rested. Yes.
Oh my God.
I would have guessed that you're like, wow, I got a lot of sleep last night. Because when you're like, all right, I think maybe you're too chill.
I'm too chill.
Like
now
you're
I'm
too
like
comfortable. We need you on edge.
Yeah, you need me with like this head cold,
Yep.
full like first. You need me like a little nauseated, like over. Also, it's getting hot in my apartment now because it's summer. It's gonna get real hot in here, and I'm not just talking about hot bits and facts. I'm talking about the temperature in this apartment. Hopefully, no one doesn't die.
I'm actually getting my heating's getting fixed.
Oh, fuck
they're finally
yeah.
it's getting it fixed. Isn't that great?
That's
Perfect
amazing.
timing. Yeah.
8 years later.
8 years later, right? And summer's about to start. So in about 6 or 7 months, for about 2 weeks, oh baby, it's gonna be
amazing.
perfect.
Oh my God. Yeah, I have it's getting so hot.
Let's
Anyway,
get back to it.
Let's get back to Iowa.
We do get
I know what you're here for.
Because they get some complaints that we don't get to it quick enough.
Okay.
We have some business,
We'll get to it.
but
We'll
we
get to
appreciate if you want to leave us positive feedback on CastBox or Apple Podcast. We would appreciate. We know we hear you, and we're doing our best.
Or how about this? You leave great feedback. You can ask for things for us to change. We respond better to great feedback and constructive criticism than
Especially if we don't deserve it.
less stars and just all caps.
Get us above 4.0.
Please,
Get us
baby, please, baby,
I think we're at
please.
3.9. Get us above that 4.0 on Apple Podcast, please.
Please. Okay, let's get back to it.
Get
'cause
back to the murders.
That's the meat of the. That's the blood and guts, the gory, everything of it. Okay, so I was looking up. I'm looking up murderers all the time. You know, that's just who I am. And I found this one, and it just feels like something I would know, but I just didn't. So the Villisca Axe Murders occurred on the evening of June 10th, 1912, into the night and early morning of June 11th in the town of Villisca in southwestern Iowa. And what happened here was 6 members of the Moore family and 2 young girl house guests were found bludgeoned in the residence. All 8 victims, including 4 children, had severe head wounds from an axe. And including in that, I think, is this kind of identity of being extremely haunted, much like when we talked about the Lizzie Borden house and it being a bed and breakfast. So it feels like it's one of those places that takes this really gruesome history and kind of leans into it and makes it its own, which I have really mixed feelings about, because I feel like in one sense I'm like it feels like you're capitalizing on this thing, but in another sense it feels like you're like celebrating it in a way that maybe is good and maybe takes it and can make peace with it in a weird way. We'll put a picture up, but it calls itself the Axe Murder House right in front, like front and center with the sign, and you're like, all right, here I am, you know?
It's great marketing. Let's drum up that business.
Like, there's axe in everything. Like, it's like everything is like axe and blood themed.
Because with Lizzie Borden, didn't they say it wasn't actually an axe she used, and that's kind of like the misconception with like the 40 whacks and the axe, that it wasn't necessarily an axe, maybe. So if that's true, this is a true axe related.
Yes, this is very axe centric. Yes. I would say. So, some background. The Moore family was Josiah, the dad, age 43, Sarah, 39, and their 4 children, Herman, 11, Mary, 10, Arthur, 7, and Paul, 5. They were an affluent family in Iowa, turn of the century, and they were well-known and well-liked. On June 10th, 1912, Mary Catherine Moore invited Ina May, 8, and Lena Gertrude Stillinger, 12, to spend the night at the house. Also, like, what are the odds that you have, like, a sleepover party on the day you get murdered?
Yeah, unless somebody knows. Like, they're
exactly.
waiting. Like, please have the sleepover.
But it's kind of like, I mean, this also feels very In Cold Blood-y, which we'll get to. So that evening, the visiting girls and the Moore family attended the Presbyterian church where they participated in the Children's Day program, which Sarah had coordinated. It's again, they're these mainstays of the community. They're inviting people to their home. They're doing a big church setup event. After the program ended at 9:30, the Moores and the Stillinger sisters walked to the Moores' house, arriving between 9:45 and 10 p.m. At 7 a.m. the next day, Mary Peckham, the Moores' neighbor, became concerned after she noticed the Moore family had not come out to do their morning chores.
Oh, boy.
When was the last time you did a morning chore?
I mean, I'm an early riser.
Is this a morning chore?
What? No, just a chore.
Okay, I guess it's in the morning. It's 10:45. This is much earlier than we usually record. Maybe that's part of it. Peckham knocked on the Moores' door. When nobody answered, she tried to open the door and discovered that it was locked. Peckham let the Moores' chickens out and called, they had chickens, Ross Moore, Josiah Moore's brother. Like Peckham, Moore received no response when he knocked on the door and shouted. He unlocked the front door with his copy of the house key. While Peckham stood on the porch, Moore went into the parlor and opened the guest bedroom door, where he found Ina and Lena Stillinger's bodies on the bed. Moore immediately told Peckham to call Hank Horton. Huh?
Relation? What? Hold on.
Relation?
For those of you that don't know or care, my last name is Horton.
Yeah.
So they're probably like, "What? We don't get the reference."
Yeah, we're like, I don't care. I stopped listening to this 5 minutes ago. Yeah. That was Villisca's primary, I hope I'm saying that right too. I think it is. Primary peace officer who arrived shortly thereafter. I want to be a peace officer. Horton's search of the house revealed the entire Moore family and the 2 Stillinger girls bludgeoned to death. The murder weapon, an axe belonging to Josiah, was found in the guest room where the Stillinger sisters were found. Oof. Doctors concluded that the murders had taken place between midnight and 5 a.m. 2 spent cigarettes in the attic suggested that the killer or killers patiently waited in the attic until the Moore family and the Stillinger guests were asleep. That is the creepiest stuff like that, where it's like the moves, like the little details where it's like just a dude waiting in the attic to murder.
And that's like classic horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, really paved the way, probably. Like, stories like this really paved the way for a classic horror movie.
Or like when I think about Edward Kemper, the famous serial killer who, I mean, he did such atrocious things. He was 6'7". Like, that is such a creepy...
Yeah, where do you fit?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to, like, crap. Can you imagine a serial killer coming into my front door?
Because we fit anywhere. You know what I mean?
We fit anywhere. Yeah. Just pop us in your bag, in your pocket.
Yeah,
we'll go with you. Yeah, we're good. We're good for everything. But, like, Eddie Kemper, like, leaning in through my, like, door frame.
Not Ellie Kemper, the actor.
No, not Ellie Kemper. Are they related? I don't know.
Wait a minute. Is there a connection between myself and this Horton and her and that?
Kemper, Horton. We do good work here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to it. So there was a murder hanging out in their attic until they went to bed. The killer or killers began in the master bedroom where Josiah and Sarah Moore were sleeping. Josiah received more blows from the axe than any other victim. His face had been cut to such extent that his eyes were missing. They used the blade of the axe on Josiah while using the blunt end on the rest of the victims. Interesting choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure psychologically there is obviously a motivation to do one,
Yeah. It's also like your first try.
Yeah, maybe
like bad pancake. Like maybe he didn't need to, but also that is such a violent.
Yeah.
Like that's what made me think. We'll get to the theories on who did this in a bit, but again, I think that's a very big statement if we're looking at this from an investigative perspective, which we're not.
Yeah, we're not. No.
They proceeded to the children's rooms and bludgeoned Herman, Mary Catherine, Arthur, and Paul in the head in the same manner as their parents. They returned to the master bedroom to inflict more blows on the elder Moores. They went back to keep axing the elder Moores, knocking over a shoe that had filled with blood before moving downstairs to the guest bedroom and finally killing the two guests, Ina and Lena.
So they weren't it wasn't a...
They doubled back.
Yeah.
After they were dead.
So it's not even a thing where oh no, what did we do?
Yeah.
It was we know what we did. Let's make sure it's definitely done.
Yeah, even though his eyes... I mean, what kind of person is these people are clearly dead. We just killed everyone else. Let's go back and keep axing. Yeah. Keep on... Oof. I mean, the details of this are very, very powerful, I would say. Investigators believe that all of the victims, except for Lena Stillinger, had been asleep when murdered. They thought that she was awake and tried to fight back as she was found lying crosswise on the bed and with a defensive wound on her arm. Lena's nightgown was pushed up to her waist, so she was wearing no undergarments, leading to enforcement speculation that the killers sexually molested her or attempted to do so. Again, she's 12 years old. Awful. Once the murders were discovered, the news traveled quickly in the small town. As neighbors and curious onlookers converged in the house, law enforcement officials quickly lost control of the crime scene. It said that up to 100 people went through the house.
That's what, this reminded me of the John Benet Ramsey.
Yeah, we're just I don't know, anyone's welcome.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah,
touch that blood.
Yeah.
We need
some more foot traffic in here.
Exactly. I don't know, take a book.
Yeah.
Maybe return it later.
Yeah.
So up to 100 people went through, gawking at the bodies, until finally the Villisca National Guard arrived at noon to be no, this has to stop. So the National Guard, can you imagine the cops, the local cops being I don't know, whatever.
I'll give a little bit of, because it was 1912 we're talking about.
Yeah.
When it's in the late 80s or 1990, there's no excuse to have any of that, people just running amok. I'll give, you know what I mean? I want to stick up for the town of Villisca a little bit, because it's 1912.
Sticking up for the
forensics were what it is now.
But the idea of
I know, why would you do it?
You're someone in a small town. These are your friends.
Yeah.
These are pillars of your community, and you're oh, they're all dead?
Yeah.
Oh, I should go see them. You know?
Yeah.
Something like that. Although it is very close. I'm kind of obsessed with Victorian, American Victorian culture. And it's a little bit later than that, honestly, but still, the obsession with death is very interesting.
Well, they would pose, in photos, right?
Yeah.
They would pose...
And they would take dead people's hair and make, garlands and things like that. So maybe there's a little bit of that involved in it, too. But again, it's hard for me to imagine being oh, you're friends with that cool family that does everything at the church and their chores and they have chickens.
The celebrities, essentially, of the town.
They all died. Do you want to go visit their house?
You think you'd want to keep them out, not get sell tickets.
Yeah, exactly. But we're going to take a little break and talk about the theories of who done it.
Ooh, we better come back now.
Come back now.
And we're back.
We're back.
You know what I'm going to say? Before we get back into it, I just want to tease a little something for one of the you'll know. This will be something to look forward to on patreon.com/ghosttownpod.
Mm-hmm. Heard of it?
Excited. We talk about amusement parks, right? Mm-hmm. Have we talked about haunted amusement parks? We will.
Oh, shit.
Only on patreon.com/ghosttownpod. Okay.
I love our Patreon
Me too.
episodes. I have to say, because I think with these, we really get into it. And we try really hard to get to the meat of these certain situations, or airs in time. Our Patreon episodes are a little...
It's wild.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
It could be a little tongue-in-cheek, a little more playful.
Yeah. But some of my favorite episodes are in there.
Me too.
Yeah.
And you should check them out as well. Anyway, plugging over. Let's get back to murder. So the town is up in arms, right? We're figuring out who did this as people walk through, dirty the carpets, what have you. And there was a lot of suspects that emerged after this happened. First one is Sam Moyer. At the inquest, it was reported that Sam Moyer, who was Josiah's brother-in-law, just often casually threatened to kill him. But upon further investigation, his alibi was cleared, so he was not there.
He said,
in the city at the
he said,
crime.
I was at another barn, and the police were like, okay.
Yeah, he was like, I was waiting in the attic of someone else's house.
Yeah, to kill them.
Smoking cigarettes.
Idiot.
Come on. And they're like, cool. Great. And then there's Frank F. Jones. Frank Fernando Jones was a resident of Villisca and an Iowa state senator. The plot thickens. Josiah Moore had worked for Frank Jones at his implement store, which I think means like, I think like forks and knives, like implements, but I think it's like tractor. I think it's more agricultural in nature. I don't know. I've been in LA for way too long. And he left Jones's store to open his own store. Moore repeatedly took business away from Jones, including a very successful John Deere dealership. Moore was rumored to have a sexual affair with Jones's daughter-in-law. So that
Motive,
but there's no evidence to support this.
Yeah.
Just-
Any evidence has been pretty much trampled on.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you think like people would like suspects would automatically be people that would show up to the scene of the crime?
No, I mean maybe
I mean,
serial killers do that.
Yeah, right.
They'll,
I'm just saying like
double.
might be they want to see like, oh wow, what's going on here?
I know, and someone who would bludgeon someone and then double back and keep bludgeoning.
Might be-
maybe that's true.
Might be in their personality to show
Yeah,
up again.
if you killed someone, would you go back to the scene of the crime? Is that? I don't think you would.
It
I think you'd
depends
go.
if I had to take an Uber or not, and like if it was like surge pricing.
Yeah, that's true. It's a really good.
I don't got
point.
the money.
Okay. I feel like I would be too scared to go back, but also there's my ego. Like I know it would feed my ego to be like,
Pretty
how about
good,
that?
huh?
Yeah, you'd elbow the person next to you who was like crying and be like,
Good work, huh?
crazy, pretty violent.
Yeah.
Who did that?
Yeah. This will be on a podcast,
Do you have
right?
any ideas?
This is podcast worthy.
This is absolutely podcast worthy. Okay, another suspect is Henry Lee Moore. He was a serial killer. Surprise, surprise. He was not related to the Moore family. P.S.
I think there's just a lot of last names more.
Moore.
My sister's technically former last name is Moore.
Oh,
So there's it's all a lot
Moore.
of related.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot in the Midwest. I wonder, what is that name of origin?
Yeah.
I feel like it's Dutch or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I made that up. It might not be any Dutch name. We'll get to it. We won't. What? Anyway, back to it. So Henry Lee Moore, he was convicted of murder of his mother and grandmother several months after the murders in Villisca. His weapon of choice, an axe. Before and after the murders, the very similar axe murders on his mother and grandmother were committed. All of the cases showed striking similarities, leading to strong suspicion that it was a serial killer. And just like another suspect we'll talk about right after, that this is a repeated pattern of this stuff, and it being very violent and similar blows, kind of a thing. So this is still a possibility. And if I didn't say so before, this case is still unsolved. So
I don't know
there's no
how
answer to the end of
You
this.
figure like it's a while ago, but
Yeah.
I think there's enough. It's recent enough where there's descendants and
Mm-hmm.
great grandparents and grandparents, and that could be like, hey, somebody in the town talked about something. You figure something would come to if this was 1400s. I'd be like,
Yeah.
well, okay, well, it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
It's done.
Yeah, you might get something where someone's great-grandfather, great-grandfather,
And it's
most
small
likely.
enough. I'm sure it's not like we're not talking about like even New York City or Boston in 1912.
No, this is like strong roots in these towns.
and tight knit communities.
Yeah, and I think that's also kind of the fun thing about a murder like this, where you can still get those little nuggets. I think you can still like get information after the fact because of this culture of people being really embedded in each other's lives. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
But let's get to some other suspects. So now we're getting
so many
this
suspects.
in like
And they all
ascending
seem
order.
legitimate.
I know,
They
they
all
all
seem
seem pretty,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's a lot of murder in a small town. Who
Yeah.
would have thought it?
Yeah,
no
Iowa.
one. This culture
The
never.
home of Slipknot.
Whoa! This is like a murder mystery party that I would have in high school.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Or
that
now.
seems disrespectful to these people. And there's William Mansfield. Another theory was that Senator Jones, which we talked about, hired William Mansfield to murder the Moore family. It's believed that Mansfield was also a serial killer because he murdered his wife, infant child, and parents-in-law with an axe 2 years after the Villisca crimes. People were getting murdered with axes all the time in Iowa in 1915, apparently, 12 to 15. He is believed to have committed axe murders in Paola, Kansas, 4 days before the Villisca crimes. He also was suspected in the double homicide of Jenny Peterson and Jenny Miller in Illinois. Each crime site was accessible by train. All murders were carried out in virtually the same manner. Victims were hacked to death with an axe, and the mirrors in the homes were covered.
But none of these people admitted to. They didn't own up to it.
A burning lamp with the chimney off was left at the foot of the bed, and a basin in which the murder was washed was found in the kitchen. In each case, the murderer avoided leaving fingerprints by wearing gloves, which Detective James Wilkerson believed was strong evidence that the man was Mansfield, who knew his fingerprints were on file at the federal military prison at Leavenworth, which I assume he did some time in.
So there are like fingerprint forensics as far as fingerprints are concerned.
Yeah, I think that's the dusting.
Yeah,
dusting.
but I'm
thing.
sure it's not as. I mean, I could see that getting tampered. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, with like greasy ass farm people being
Yeah.
like, you guys can't see me, but I'm batting at something. Mansfield was released after a special grand jury of Montgomery County refused to indict him on grounds that his alibi checked. Everyone has shit to do. His alibi checked out.
It was the alibi just saying, I wasn't there, I was at another barn.
Who's to say? I didn't look into the Iowa
but I feel like
records.
that might be what it is.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. Wilkerson managed to convince a grand jury to open the investigation in 1916, and Mansfield was arrested and brought to Montgomery County from Kansas City. Payroll records, however, provided an alibi that placed Mansfield in Illinois at the time of the murders. He was released for lack of evidence and later won a lawsuit he brought against Wilkerson and was awarded $2,225, which
Is 12 million today?
1916.
12 million today.
12
That's rough
That's
rough
pretty,
numbers. Yeah.
We
Rough
do
math.
good math here. Wilkerson believed that pressure from Jones resulted not only in Mansfield's release, but also in the subsequent arrest and trial of Reverend Kelly. However, we'll get to him. R.H. Thorpe, a restaurant owner from Shenandoah, Iowa, identified Mansfield as the man he saw the morning after the murders boarding a train. This man said he had walked from Villisca. If proven to be true, this testimony would disprove Mansfield's alibi. Furthermore, it was reported that Mrs. Vena Tompkins of Marshalltown, Iowa, was on her way to testify when she heard 3 men in the woods plotting the murder of the Moore family a short time before the killings.
She just was like, oh.
She's on her way.
What can I do about it?
Yeah, I mean, certainly someone recorded it, and we're using it now.
Yeah.
But again, yeah, it's just a lot of like it's like as good as small town shit can be, like as good as information can be found and passed along, it also can't be. Also, like I was walking, I saw this and I kept walking.
I mean,
to my job.
Yeah.
Or like to my home, to my family. Okay. And then another suspect, Andrew Sawyer. Every transient and otherwise unaccounted for stranger was a prime suspect in the murders. One such guy was Andy Sawyer. No real evidence linked him to the crime, but his name came up often in grand jury testimonies. According to Thomas Dyer of Burlington, Iowa, a bridge foreman and a pile driver for the Burlington Railroad, Sawyer approached his crew in Creston at 6 a.m. the morning of the murders, and he was clean-shaven, wearing a brown suit when he arrived. His shoes were covered in mud and his pants were wet nearly to the knees. He asked for employment, and as Dyer needed an extra man, he was given a job on the spot. Also, just a product of its time. Can you imagine in a wet suit going to get a job? It's hard enough to get a job not in a wetsuit.
So, yeah.
You know? Like LinkedIn. Oh, God, it's a nightmare. Anyway.
Indeed.com, right?
Dyer testified that later that evening when the crew reached Fontanelle, Iowa, Sawyer purchased a newspaper and went off by himself to read it. The newspaper carried a front-page account of the Villisca murders, and according to Dyer, Sawyer was much interested in it. Dyer's crew complained that Sawyer slept with his clothes on and was anxious to be by himself. 2 details that I understand pretty intimately. They were also uneasy that Sawyer slept with his axe next to him.
He called it his murdering axe.
He often talked of the Villisca murders and whether or not a killer had been apprehended.
I mean,
this
it's
is
tough. It is interesting. I mean, listen, anyone would read the front cover.
Yeah.
And that's but I mean, sleeping with like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sleeping with an axe in any context, I'd be like,
how many,
that's weird.
The axe industry there must have been like booming.
Yeah. You want to be, if you were anywhere in Iowa in 1915, you wanted to be in the axe industry.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're going like hotcakes.
You could really make a living for yourself. You can make a name for yourself. So Sawyer told Dyer that he'd been in Villisca that Sunday night and had heard of the murders. Afraid of being taken in as a suspect, he had left and gone to Creston. Dyer was suspicious and turned him over to the sheriff on June 18th, 1912. Dyer later testified that prior to the sheriff's arrival, he walked up behind Sawyer. He was rubbing his head with both hands and suddenly jumped up and said to himself, "I will cut your goddamn heads off." At the same time, he made striking motions with the axe and began hitting the piles in front of him. Dyer's son, JR, testified that one day as the crew drove through Villisca, Sawyer told him he would show JR where the man who killed the Moore family got out of town. This is very damning. He said that the man that did the job jumped over a manure box, which he had pointed out about a block and a half away, and showed where he crossed the railroad track. This guy's giving tours just like me.
Yeah. Oh, he's a pioneer.
Exactly. JR said that there were footprints in the soggy ground north of the embankment. Sawyer told JR to look on the other side of the car and said he would show him an old tree where the murderer stepped.
Okay.
Into the creek. According to J.R. Dyer, he looked over and saw such a tree south of the track about 4 blocks away. Sawyer was dismissed as a subject in the case when officials learned that he could prove he had been in Osceola, Iowa on the night of the murders. He'd been arrested for vagrancy there, and the sheriff recalled putting him on a train to send him away at 11 p.m. that evening. We have one more suspect.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Great. And this is the guy I mentioned before, Reverend George Kelly. Kelly was an English-born traveling minister in the town on the night of the murders. Isn't this like amazing?
It's
like
perfect.
All of these people, it's like the vagrant, the brother-in-law, the
Well, it's all walks.
competitor.
It's like all walks of life. It's not just like all like this guy was creepy and this guy's like he's a reverend.
Yeah,
This guy was.
This is like a bona fide murder mystery.
Yeah,
which is another reason I think this case is amazing. Kelly was described as peculiar, reporting having suffered a mental breakdown as an adolescent. As an adult, who hasn't, right? As an adult, he was accused of peeping and several times asking young women and girls to pose nude for him. Oof. On June 8th, 1912, he came to Villisca to teach the Children's Day services, which the Moore family attended on June 10th, 1912. He left town between 5 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. on June 10th, 1912, hours before the bodies were discovered. Reverend Kelly had confessed to the murders in court, but the jury didn't believe his confession. In the weeks that followed, he displayed a fascination with the case and wrote many letters to the police, investigators, and family of the deceased. Can you imagine? This aroused suspicion, and a private investigator wrote back to Reverend Kelly asking for details that the minister might know about the murders. Kelly replied with great detail, claiming to have heard sounds and possibly witnessing the murders. His known mental illness made authorities question whether he knew the details or was just kind of fabricating things as one might. In 1914, 2 years after the murders, he was arrested for sending obscene material through the mail. He was sexually harassing a woman who applied for a job as his secretary. He went to a hospital in Washington, D.C., and he speculated, again, that, people speculated that he had murdered the Moore family. In 1970, he was actually arrested for the murders. Police obtained a confession from him. However, it was followed by many hours of interrogation, and later he recanted overall. After 2 separate trials, he was acquitted, and the first trial was a hung jury, while the second trial ended in the... he was tried twice. The first was a hung jury. The second was the acquittal. And other suspects were, again, exonerated for the case.
It's no motive. I think the ones with, I don't know. Motive, there doesn't need to necessarily be motivation.
Yeah.
But motive is always the first thing that
Yeah.
What's the motivation?
But there are a lot of pretty strong motivations, just nothing came together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe you're just like, I just want to do it. That's the motivation.
Yeah. That's very inculpable.
The axes were on sale.
I wanted to use one.
Yeah,
it's called value.
It's like practically paid for themselves.
I know. So of course, all of this house is extremely haunted. It's been, and the website too, if you are enjoying this, which I hope you are, go to the website. The website is, whoever made it was really into Flash. Like, it's very comprehensive. There's only one ghost testimonial on it, even though it says that it's haunted. It has a ton of history on it. It has a lot of, like, the different testimonials and things on it. But there's only one, like, ghost account. It's in really heavy, bold, like, Cambria, kind of like Cambria, like, very seraphy. Not sans serif, seriful.
Is it an Angel Fire account? Or?
Yeah, it's in, actually, it is a dark website with like lighter font.
Oh, okay.
So if you're into that, I would check it out just for that.
I think it actually
for
helps.
design.
I think it adds to the charm of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but my old aging eyes don't appreciate it. Anyway, it's been investigated several times in various paranormal investigations to see if it's haunted. The Villisca house, I mean, obviously. Many teams have spent the night in the house and reported ghostly experiences. Not from the website. I found that a lot of people feel a feeling of heaviness from the main stairwell up to the rooms upstairs. Interesting. Various videos and pictures have been taken showing orbs. Numerous EVP or electronic auto phenomena have also been recorded. And again, I couldn't find... there's some pictures of orbs, but I couldn't find any recordings per se, which I'm all about. At 2 a.m., the train passes through the town, and it's thought that the whistle of the train triggers the residual events of the murder. Many people have noticed a light fog filling up in the bedroom just after the train whistle. I don't know which bedroom they're talking about. It moves from one room to another, and once it dissipates, the sound of dripping blood can be heard.
Ooh.
I love that shit.
Yeah. That's not on the website?
That's not on the website. I found that
Webmaster,
elsewhere.
hello.
Here's what they do have on the website. A summary of my personal experiences at the Villisca Axe Murder House by Pat Busen of Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is 20 minutes from where I grew up. My first visit to the Villisca Axe Murder House was June of 2009. It was a simple day tour of the house and the cemetery, but since that day, I have been hooked. Since that time, I've spent many overnight visits at the house, and not one time have I had any regrets. As far as paranormal activity goes, this house comes through loud and proud. Over the past few years, I have accumulated many EVPs from the house, both live and residual. I've also called out the names of the Moore children and Lena and Ina Stillinger, who were all victims in that fateful night, to turn my flashlight on and off when asked, and they did just that. These impressive paranormal incidents occurred in the blue room, where Lena and Ina were murdered, and the upstairs bedroom where the 4 Moore children were murdered. I've also felt cold spots in the house that I cannot offer an explanation for, but were there. Based on my personal experiences and EVP captures along with my own gut feeling, I believe the spirits of all 8 victims still dwell within the house. The burning question is why? Is it due to fear and trauma as a result of the incident itself, or is it because the house is the last place they knew, or all of the above, or none of the above? A couple of years back, I became a member of the paranormal investigation team called International Ghost Research Society. We gotta get them. And we have spent a few overnights at the house gathering plenty of audio and video evidence to convince even the most hardcore skeptic that the Villisca Axe Murder House is most definitely haunted. This house has a mystique all of its own and will rival any other allegedly haunted location. An overnight visit to this house will make most skeptics believers come sunrise the next morning. What happened in that house in June of 1912 was terrible and tragic. It was something that never should have happened. I believe there are many secrets embedded within the town of Villisca concerning the axe murders that may never be revealed. In closing, I am glad I discovered the Villisca Axe Murder House as a paranormal investigation hotspot and a place to remember the victims as well. I look forward to many more memorable visits to this house.
That's an example of how people should be reviewing Ghost Town Podcast on Apple Podcast or Castbox. That's a great review.
Yeah,
That's...
again, I get why it's the only review.
They
should have more reviews, maybe 3.
Yeah,
but
that one,
it really packs a punch.
I would say she's the MVP of EVPs.
It might be a he. I'm not sure.
He.
Yeah,
but the MVP of EVPs is what I was thinking. Yeah, right. Okay.
Absolutely, that landed. But we should go there. We should go capote it up there at some point. I wonder how much the rooms are.
Maybe what? 660
cents?
Yeah, it's not bad. 660 cents. We're not good at math.
Nope.